This is for Senator Bramnick. Higher education is already unaffordable for many New Jersey families, yet Governor Murphy's proposed state budget contains $285 million in cuts to student financial aid and colleges and universities, while further federal cuts are also likely coming for education and workforce programs. What will you do as governor to help more New Jersey families continue their kids' education?
Well, first, I won't vote for a budget that cuts higher education and then helps their friends and puts money into a Domino's club, into a lacrosse club, and $50 million into a French art museum. So this is the problem that the Democrats continue in our state. They cut important services such as higher education. That $250 million goes back in. I've never supported any of his budgets as Republican leader, and I led a caucus to make sure we had limited increases when Chris Christie was the governor. That's why experience is really important when we're talking about a budget. But no, I think they're making a big mistake cutting higher education.
Bill Spadia.
Well, there's experience, and then there is being a political insider. And my two opponents combined for 80 years as political insiders. So when you look at that and you say, okay, how are we in such a bad shape right now when these two guys have had the power to do something about it, yet they failed to act? Now, what are we going to do? We are going to cut some higher education. I'm going to start with $1 billion cut out of the Rutgers budget. It is absolutely outrageous that Rutgers University has a $5 billion budget, $1 billion coming from the taxpayers, and still one of the most expensive in-state tuitions in the entire country. What we really have to do is get into middle school and high school and start talking to kids about other careers. Why are we not talking about getting into the skilled trades? Why does every kid have to go to college and endure a six-figure debt with no prospects of jobs? We need to change education and the way we think.
Jack Ciattarelli.
The reason why Bill doesn't meet his own definition of insider is because he's lost every election he's ever won. So,
how about those last two races for governor, Jack?
Murphy's budget includes $20 million in cuts to community colleges, which I believe offer the best value proposition it is. So under Governor Ciattarelli, you're not going to see cuts, particularly to community college funding. I think there's something wrong with the cost structure of higher ed in New Jersey. I've had two of my four children that went out of state to college. One went to West Virginia, paid out of state tuition. One went to the University of Minnesota, paid out of state tuition. Both ended up paying less on an annual basis than what it would have cost to go to Rutgers with in-state tuition. So we have a new Rutgers president. I'm going to work very, very closely with our university colleges and presidents to get their cost structure under control. But we're going to make sure that higher ed is attainable for each and every New Jerseyan.
Since I was attacked as an insider, let me respond. An insider is someone with experience. Now, when you're a radio host, you just hang up on the person you disagree with. When you represent people, you listen to all your constituents. That's why I continue to win in a district with 7,000 more Democrats, because I listen. I can't cut off the person calling me on the phone. I'm not sure a radio host is actually real experience for running the state of New Jersey. It's real experience for selling stuff, but it ain't terribly good to be the governor of the state of New Jersey.
30 seconds, Bill Spadia.
It's a silly comment. I'm not going to respond.
Back to Micah.
Okay. You just mentioned, Assemblyman, the net migration out of the state for college. Do we run the risk, if all those kids leave, that they're not coming back?
We do. In fact, New Jersey leads the nation. When our K through 12 students go out of state to college, New Jersey leads the nation in the fewest that come back. People will go where they can achieve their American dream. I'd like to do what Missouri did. What Missouri did is if you went to a Missouri state college, paid out-of-state tuition, if you had 3 years of W-2 wages after graduation, 3 years of W-2 wages from a Missouri employer, they gave you a refund for the difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition. For our New Jerseyans, I'd like to make your first 2 years of W-2 earnings after high school or college tax-free. These are some of the things that we can do to get people back here in this state. If we don't do that, the future doesn't look good in terms of economic vitality.
Bill Spadia.
Jack's got a lot of ideas on giving away money. As a matter of fact, it was Jack's idea, and he supported and maybe still supports taxpayer-funded in-state tuition for illegal aliens. That ends on day one when I end the sanctuary state. So very interesting that we're talking about whether people stay here. You know, there was a great idea proposed in New York by Governor Cuomo, former Governor Cuomo. You know, sometimes Democrats have an idea or two that you can look at, that if you invest in someone's higher education and then require a certain number of years for them to work and pay taxes in the state, that would be a return on investment instead of a giveaway. Jack is fond of giving away money because this is what insiders do.
John Bramnick.
People leave the state for a number of reasons and don't come back. Students are just part of the people exiting the state. They exit the state and don't come back because they can't afford to come back to the state. That's why you need a Republican governor. The out-of-control spending, the high property taxes, the environment for business is all creating a situation where people can't come back to the state because they can't afford it. That's students, and that's seniors, and that's working people. So what we want to do is make sure it's affordable for everyone, and maybe those students would come back to New Jersey.